Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to have a conversation, and this topic is semi-trending, and it all depends on your preference and how you feel about the term ownership and what is ownership. Because more and more we're seeing things that we thought we owned just kind of disappear right in front of our eyes, which is a strange thing. And this is actually happening quite a bit on the Switch and Nintendo Switch 2, where games that you bought you can no longer play, and they're not even accessible anymore. And this is just something I feel really strongly about right now. So I thought it is time to talk about it. Let's go ahead and get right into this video. Like I was saying, the term ownership, it should be very straightforward, right? I bought this Switch 2 Pro controller, so therefore I own it, and as long as I want to own it, it will be right here on my desk. Simple. But what about stuff that you purchased digitally? Well, apparently all bets are off when it comes to that. And this is becoming a huge problem, especially in 2026 moving forward. And as much as I praise Nintendo and the Switch and Switch 2, they are not exempt from this, whether it's their fault directly or, they're just the catalyst to the things that you purchased. If they take it away, shouldn't Nintendo be able to refund you? I don't think that's the case here. So before we get started, if you could hit a like and subscribe, that would truly mean the world to me. Also, if you could follow me on Instagram and Twitter, well, hey, I'd really appreciate that. But let's just go ahead and get right into this. So this article right here, I was reading today from Game Rant, kind of got me like re-fired up about this, because sometimes something will happen. I'm like, damn, that's so stupid. Then I don't forget, but so many other things are happening, which I think is by design, that you kind of just say, well, it is what it is. So we have Aliens Fireteam Elite's cloud version on Nintendo Switch has permanently shut down. And I'll be honest, I have no idea what this game is, but just from these pictures right here, it looks pretty cool. So players who are hanging on to the cloud versions of Alien Fireteam Elite on Nintendo Switch after it was delisted from the eShop in March of 2026, so it was delisted all the way back in March, can no longer access the game at all. This shutdown even affects players who had previously purchased the game, meaning their purchase is no longer playable at all. And Nintendo has not signaled that it will offer refunds for players who purchased Aliens Fireteam Elite Cloud version. Knowing Nintendo, I don't see them getting a refund. Now what's interesting is, literally in the past 24 hours, I cannot remember what it was, but there was like a viral story going around where somebody had purchased either a game or a movie, then those were taken away from them, and I guess they purchased it like years ago. So when they were removed from their library, I want to say it was movies, they contacted support, and support was like, well, since you purchased them years ago, you obviously had enough time to enjoy them, so you're not getting a refund. When it comes to cloud versions of games, you could make the argument like, well, you never really owned it to begin with, you always had to stream it. And sure, for the sake of this video, let's play to all sides. Sure. Something I didn't know though is we had this many cloud versions of games on the Switch. Like, I know we had some, and we're going to get into some of those in a moment, because there are actually still issues. Even when you use the argument like, oh, you didn't expect this, it was a cloud version, it still is a bad deal, which we're about to talk about. But I didn't know a lot of these games were on the Switch through cloud version. Assassin's Creed Odyssey cloud version, when the hell did that show up on the Switch? Phantasy Star Online, what? Control I knew about, Hitman I knew about, I think A Plague Tale Innocence I even knew about, Guardians of the Galaxy I may have known about, Kingdom Hearts, we're about to get into that in a moment, Resident Evil 7, I didn't know that was on the Switch. Yeah, all of these games will be delisted at some point. And you could say, well, we're going to the Switch 2 now, and maybe you could re-download them from the Switch 2 eShop, or maybe if you bought these games, right? Let's just keep it logical here. You bought these games on the Switch, they were the cloud versions. They will be eventually delisted from the Switch, but hey, you have a Switch 2 now, so you'll get the official versions on the Switch 2, and they will either give those to you for free or a slight upgrade path, but at least you have the real versions now. But that is not the case at all here. And this is my prime example right here. Kingdom Hearts Nintendo Switch cloud versions are delisting today. This was 2 months ago. I think this is when they announced the Switch 2 ports. Players who own the versions can play until June 9th of 2027. You own a Switch, you bought the cloud versions of Kingdom Hearts, and they got delisted and you can only play until June 9th. But at least the real versions are on the Switch 2. Now you may say, well, hey, I don't own a Switch 2. So even though I bought these games on the Switch and the real versions are coming to the Switch 2, I bought these and now I can no longer access them just because the Switch 2 is getting the real games now? That does not seem fair at all. So now let's approach this from all sides, right? So somebody bought these on the Switch, didn't get a Switch 2, and they have no access to it at all. Hey, whatever ownership is, this is not it. But some people did get a Nintendo Switch 2, and some people bought the cloud versions of these games. Now, are you getting these games again free since you already own them on the Switch 2? You're not. But what they did do for about a month or a few weeks or something like that is they gave you like a 50% off discount if you already owned the games, the cloud versions. So if you got a Switch 2 and you wanted to upgrade to the real games, 50% off. That doesn't seem so bad, especially coming from Square Enix. But let me break this down to you very simply. You own something. And if you want to continue to own that something again on your new console, you have to pay again. And they're saying, well, hey, it's 50% off. You're only paying 50% off. Why am I paying 50% off of anything when I already own the damn games? That doesn't make sense to me. Let me break down this argument with a physical product again. For the sake of this argument, let's say this is a Nintendo Switch 1 Pro controller. I own a Nintendo Switch 1 Pro controller, and I played it on my Switch, and it was amazing. But now on the Switch 2, if I want to use it, well, even though you already owned it, pay us half of what you paid, which was like $40, $45. I don't know how much these are. $40, and you can use it on your Switch 2. Yeah, that's essentially what they're doing, but just for a digital product. So what this practice is inevitably teaching you is when you do buy stuff digitally that you thought you owned, you don't own it. And I know, technically when you buy a game, even a physical game, what you're doing is buying the license for it. I've heard the argument. I don't really like the argument because it's stupid, but this situation is even a lot worse than what I'm making it sound like. Now, I don't exactly remember when this story was going around. I want to say about a month ago, but the reason why it's relevant again is because on September 1st, this is taking place and companies are just removing your stuff out of all your libraries. For example, Sony has announced that it will permanently remove 551 purchased, keyword right there, you purchased these, you didn't rent them, but essentially you did rent them, right? Sony has announced that it will permanently remove 551 purchased digital movies and TV shows from PlayStation Store user libraries, and this will take effect September 1st. Because Sony failed to renew its content license agreement with a fringe distributor, Studio Canal. Since Sony did not renew a contract with somebody, Sony's not taking a hit on this. You are. Yeah. You purchased these, remember? You own these, and you own them in your digital library. You know, I don't even want to say the word collect, but I buy tons of DVDs and Blu-rays and just stack them up in the front room. Probably have like close to 100 already, right? And I will continue to do this forever because it just makes sense. I bought this, I could watch it whenever I want. Streaming is one thing if you can't find it because the rights went to another streaming service. Okay, whatever. But when you purchase something and now you cannot access whatever was in your library, it's dumb. And it is so cliche. Don't get me wrong. I see this comment under every single post. If buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing or something of that effect. And as cliche and kind of corny the saying is, because you see so many people post it trying to get, the most like comment or whatever, are they wrong? All this really does is push people into piracy and emulating more and more. And now with the PlayStation 6 going to be only digital, I think there's like an ultimate goal here. Consoles are going to be so expensive. Physical is not going to be an option. Digital, they control the market, right? So if games don't really ever go on sale, then you don't really ever save money. Games are $70, $80, maybe $100 like GTA 6. That's very expensive. So what you should do, you can't afford these games. You can't afford the consoles. You should just rent them through cloud streaming. You can play for this many hours a day for this amount of price. It won't even be like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. They'll sell you a membership to be able to stream the games for a certain amount. And if you go over that, well, you better pay extra money so you can finish that game. I think the ultimate goal of all these companies is zero ownership. They control the consoles and the software. And I know that sounds very extreme, but I really think that's the way we're moving. And this is becoming a very big problem. Another thing is like preserving the games and the history of these games. That's another reason why physical media is so important. There's games like, what is it called? PT, I think, the horror game that was on the PS4 that you can no longer access at all. Some people will sell the PlayStation 4s for like hundreds of dollars just so you could play that game. Game preservation is important. So yeah, this topic is very important for a plethora of reasons. So let me know what you guys are thinking. If you made it to this part of the video, truly, in the comments below, where do you stand on this? I would love to hear from you guys. And if you made it to this part of the video, if you could do me a favor, hit a like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Consider becoming a channel member. And you guys know me. I'll see you very soon with a new video. Peace.